Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast series this month. I am Lauren Young, and I am reintroducing Sue Drake from the Ascendis Learning Connection. Hi, Sue.
Hello, welcome. I'm glad to be back.
Fabulous. We're happy to have you again. So first time we spoke, we were going over some particulars about how last century learning is holding back this century's employees. And we talked a lot about what subscription learning is, what the training landscape is looking like in different corporations, and why this is very important to talk about right now at the beginning of the year. So today I'd like to go into some more detail. If you missed part one of the webinar, we will have it available for you to listen to on our station. But part two, we're going to actually go into some of the results from one of the surveys that Sue's company hosted earlier in 2017 in relation to learning management systems and this format. So, Sue, would you like to give us some details about that survey and kind of how it went down?
Sure. Again, I'm just grateful that all of you are back to hear some of these details. We're just ecstatic. I have to be honest about it. We're really pleased that over 22,000 people, 22,000 people received our survey. Wow. And they came from three different groups. One was we sent it out to our own independent email client database via SurveyMonkey. But we also targeted email blasts that were sent out to members of various professional organizations, those that are prominent in the business world. And then third, we created a targeted Google ad that attracted other business leaders. So, those three external groups are very reputable organizations. Out of the 22,000 people who received the survey, we had a 6.5% response rate. Isn't that amazing, Lauren?
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
I just was thrilled, and that consisted of 1,411 people, for those of you who are into the statistics. Those completed our 16-question survey. We are very, very happy with those results and feel that the data then is accurate and sound. Also want to point out that 60% of those who completed our survey were in a managerial or leadership role, which means we captured quite a large number of decision makers. So again, just thrilled with those results.
Oh my goodness, that sounds fantastic. Well, let's get into some of those results from the survey. How popular did you find the LMS training format to be across the industries that you surveyed?
This is probably our biggest surprise out of all of the other components that we'll be discussing today. Right now, it looks like there's been a pretty mixed bag of interest across the industry. In the survey, we found that we had 13 different industries respond that represented all of the respondents. And those industries, though, that were interested in this new delivery platform are healthcare, which I found interesting, insurance, and then finance came in a close third. What we were most surprised about, though, that it was the technology industry is slightly interested, but really not as much as healthcare and the insurance and finance industry. So it appears that those people in the technology industry do think that they're going to be moving in this direction within maybe 18 months or so. What's also fascinating on the very flip side, though, those who were least interested in LMS delivery were government, transportation, and consumer spending. And my guess is because they had very low budgets to work with.
For sure. That makes sense. So you're saying you were able to capture mostly decision makers in the survey. What are these decision makers seeing as the most popular way to evaluate their employees' performance?
That's an excellent question, Lauren. Because all across the industries, we learned that managers are 3 times as likely to hold the one-on-one meetings or the yearly performance reviews. We know that that's pretty popular. And they do so with each of their team members. So they're doing that, though, in place of like 360 assessments. Some might be offering some internal mentoring and coaching, but it's really that annual performance review that is still most popular. Some organizations are also gathering performance feedback from surveys that they're conducting with their customers. They might be also doing some more interim quarterly performance reviews, maybe ad hoc reviews at the end of various projects. Here's what's shocked me the most, though, is that really there's only 1% of the respondents don't provide any type of performance feedback. So 99% do. That's awesome.
Okay.
But there's still that 1%. We're not quite sure exactly what that means, but yeah, they're not doing anything.
Sure. Possibly smaller companies, or maybe they're just not familiar with the correct way to provide feedback. But still, we can work with them, right?
Very much so.
All right. Okay, next question. How often do you see training being offered within these organizations? Do you see this mainly happening at major milestones, maybe when people are brought on or when they're promoted to a new level, or is it just because there's a trend going on within the industry?
Well, the survey is telling us that 82% who responded provide training for their employees, which is good. And I'm happy with that number. But again, the 18% who don't provide training for their team members, I'm just curious, like, what's up with that? What is the reason for not? They're doing performance reviews, so they're probably noting that there's some performance skill gaps, but they're not providing training to help fill those. So in any case, we found that the professional services industry is most likely to consistently train its employees at various milestones, government being least likely, except in the case when there are some new regulatory changes, which that makes sense. Since government organizations have little training dollars available to them, they're going to be very particular on when they're going to offer training. But curiously, healthcare and manufacturing are most likely to make immediate decisions to train after they've received customer and employee feedback. So times when the organizations do offer training and when they offer it most frequently are what we would all expect when there's a new hire coming in and they need to be oriented to the new organization. Also when someone's being promoted to manager or to an executive position, so they've been with the organization for a bit, now they're moving up the ladder. If the results from those customer surveys and performance evaluations indicate that there's a consistent challenge occurring, then they'll prepare and work on some training initiatives. And like I said before, if there's new regulations, compliance requirements, those are must-dos. They don't have a choice in that. But finally, if there's some new technology being rolled out, that is another pretty much consistent need for training. Everybody needs to know how to use it in a consistent manner. But we did have some other responses that training can be offered bi-monthly, maybe during those lunch and learns. Some companies do require a set number of hours of training each year as part of their professional development goals or annual training plans. So I think our survey results didn't give us any new insights, but it did confirm what we already knew and held true.
For sure. Well, we all know training does not always come at a very inexpensive price, and it can take a lot of time to get it up and running. So what are these leaders expecting as far as results from their employees after the training is completed?
Yeah, again, this one was not a surprise to us. The number one purpose is increased productivity. Makes sense. I mean, we're all wanting to do more with less. Secondly, though, meeting those compliant and regulatory requirements, those are must-do initiatives that have to be completed. But here was a third one. This one did, I guess, surprise me a little bit, and that was to lower workplace safety incidents. So whether that surprised me is, are there really that many still occurring would be my question. But in any case, all three results do have an impact on the bottom line of an organization. And in the training space, we all know the return on investment must be pretty clear and obvious for executives to really proceed ahead with the training ideas and requirements.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's take this information that you've received from the survey results and relate this back to the subscription learning conversation we had last time.
Okay.
Given these results, why would you think an organization should consider implementing a subscription learning program? Can you share with us some advantages of this form of delivery platform?
Absolutely, sure. Well, the best part of subscription learning is that it can be accessed 24/7. Learners can read and review content then at their own pace. The content is delivered virtually, so you can feel sure that your staff is receiving the most up-to-date information, which is a huge plus, especially for those top 3 results that we just noted that leadership expects from their employees, after training, is that, increasing productivity, following those compliance regulations, lowering safety requirements. They happen frequently and often, so you have to be able to respond quickly to those. And then you can update the information quickly to manage some of those differences as well. And leaders need to see the immediate impact for them to believe that the dollars spent on training are worth it. So I just think because of its flexibility, availability 24/7, and being quickly updated, those are the biggies. But there are some other ones, some other business objectives, like the training requirements are then diverse or varied within an organization, from beginning level skills to the expert learning path. You can do online, instructor-led. It also varies with the learner style. We all have different learning styles. Some of us are more experiential. Some of us do still like to read. We might want to hear the facilitator speaking at us, so even though it's self-paced, I can be watching something and listening to the expert speaking in a little video or an annotated PowerPoint. So because we have different learner styles, this does help those training dollars go further, and then they're more effective. Also, just staying within budget, we can keep track of those dollars a lot better. When you're dealing with live training and travel and all that, those dollars can vary, and you're never quite sure what you're going to end up with at the end. According to our survey, just over 50% of the companies surveyed did spend more than $100,000 on training every year. So with the addition of subscription learning modules, it may allow companies to reallocate funds that were previously used to other trainings and that were just limited in small areas, but now they can reach a broader group. And again, for reinforcement purposes, I brought that up last time, the training dollars can be repurposed over and over and over.
That's great. All right, one more question for you. Now that we have all this information on the subscription learning program, what pitfalls should we be aware of so that we can avoid them when considering the implementation of a program?
Yes, start small. I said that all the time. Don't overwhelm your staff with a variety of options. Present like an outline of the things that they're going to be going through and in the order in which these learning experiences should be completed. That would be my first and foremost suggestion. Again, start small and simple. Secondly, have a specific application for the subscription learning program. So, for example, instead of focusing solely on theory or concepts, companies may wish to focus more on teaching their employees how to apply and implement certain strategies and skills learned in their positions right away. And let me give you an example of this. So financial acumen is a big deal, but that, again, consists of a lot of theory and concepts. Well, I can provide my trainings on profit and loss documents or balance sheets or, updating my budget, etc. But if I get right down into my documents within my organization and help them understand where the line items really affect their departments, whether it's labor or whether it is callbacks or, customer service length of calls. I mean, all of that directly affects the financial statements. Get very specific with those scenario steps. That's what I mean by specific application. Third, spacing out the learning experiences. Don't push it too fast. Some companies go overboard and they require their employees to complete really an unrealistic number of hours on training, and they expect them to complete it within a week or two. The brain just can't take that in, absorb it, and then figure out what to do with all of it. So what we're saying is this approach of overtraining can actually be stressful to the employee, and we're trying to bring that down. We want them to be comfortable, relaxed, and enjoying the learning experience, not feeling like they're not able to keep up.
For sure. And that's what it's all about. Well, thank you so much, Sue Drake of the Ascendis Learning Connection. We appreciate you for sharing this information from your survey with us first here on the Ascendis Executive Hour. How can executives connect with you if they want to discuss adding a subscription learning program or an LMS to their organization?
Once again, you can reach me in all different ways. Email sdrake@drakerg.com. You can call our office at 847-540-0655. You can reach us through Twitter at Drake Ascendis. And Facebook and LinkedIn, just look me up. I'm on all of those particular platforms.
Perfect. Thank you, Sue. Everybody, feel free to join us again for the Ascendis Executive Hour on April 12th. We will be joined by Ava Butler, and her topic will be From Snore to Soar, Practical Tips for Leading Productive Meetings. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone.